So I think everybody gets this kind of mixed up and wrong, including myself. And I want to talk about that for a second. Is that many people kind of get mixed up in terms of thinking that they have to have the right answers or they have to have the right solutions before they begin something. So I just spent a few moments looking up, questions on Quora and places like that in terms of what I can talk about. And the fact is none of the questions were really all that good. And I didn't really like any of them because it kind of didn't suit with what I was thinking about. And I thought, this is a perfect moment to sort of talk about this, that if you wait for the perfect question to sort of come towards you, or if you wait for the perfect solution to actually happen, often you just don't end up doing anything. You just kind of stall and you think, and then you don't really have anything to show for it, instead of just simply starting to do something. There's this sort of old adage that, 80% of the problem, or solving 80% of solving the problem is actually coming up with the right question. I do strongly believe that, but most of the time we spend most of our time thinking about a particular question, thinking about what we should do, and instead of just kind of going with what we're actually doing and sort of reflecting on who we are as an individual. I know that sounds a little bit kind of wonky to say it in that sort of way, but what I'm saying is, why not just be who you are? And why not just simply do those things and reflect what those particular things are as a human being, right? So we often think that, hey, we have to do this thing to get this right answer. We have to go to the right school to get this particular right answer. We have to do these steps, get the right education, get the right job, get the right family, get the right spouse, get all that kind of stuff. You just get all the right things. What you end up realizing eventually, there's not really a lot of right answers in terms of what you can do. And that sort of pondering about things rather than just throwing in your hat and seeing what happens and going with it, with whatever happens, and then making that choice when that choice is given to you. I mean, if you start doing that, you realize that all of that sort of fretting and overthinking and pondering about things actually doesn't make that much of a difference in the long run. In fact, you spend more time overthinking about what is the possible right thing to do rather than just starting and going with something. And the more that I have experience sort of with life and the more that I kind of do things, the more I realize, man, you're just overthinking. Just absolutely overthinking everything and thinking that there's a right solution. The funny thing is when I started this whole YouTube channel, for example, you could see that sort of what I've done is changed a little bit over time. And frankly, I used to think about what if there's this right choice or right question? If I get the right question right, then it's going to get all these kind of views and everything's going to work out. Frankly, it didn't work that way at all. That's not the way that these sort of algorithms work and all of that kind of stuff in the first place. And frankly, it wasn't really who I was as a person, right? And I think about, hey, I wish I could be like that particular person over there in terms of their skill set of making cool stories and all of those kind of things. But that's not who I am, right? That's not how I live my life. I can't do the vast majority of that work that it takes to do that. I'm not going to sit down for 24 hours straight, do video editing and all of that kind of stuff. That's not my life. I live kind of a hectic life for the most part. And I also like to spend some time with my kids. I also like every once in a while to have a little bit of downtime and all that kind of stuff that's not doing this. And so this is a little bit more appropriate for me, holding up a silly old phone and talking to you and letting you know, just giving you a little bit of hey, you know what? If you're thinking about you need to have the right choice, you have to have the right decisions all laid up, and you have to have the right questions and have everything all done, it's not what ends up working, right? What ends up working is you just get going and just start doing that particular thing. And it looks messy and ugly and all of that kind of stuff. Like, it just looks terrible. But at least you started. And then you go back and you do it again, right? And you just simply repeat over and over again until you actually get to the point that something actually does work out. And I have learned that repeatedly, that there often isn't a good starting position. There often isn't a good solution. The only thing that actually matters is you just kind of start at some real ugly spot, and then you go from there. You take one more step. You go like, hey, you know what, that worked out. Why don't I do something like that again tomorrow? And then you just do that again, and you do that again. So I don't think that there's ever a right question or, right solution that comes about. I think the only way that you sort of do things is you eventually just gravitate towards them in terms of what your life is and what you're doing. And it's through this sort of repetition that you actually get there. It's simply just, I think about one question. I'm going to say this one last time and then let you go. I was thinking about, if you're applying to schools, for example, right? The only thing you could do is just apply to a bunch of different schools. You wait to see if you actually get into a particular school, and then you go from there, right? There's no sort of thing that I could sort of dictate in terms of what's going to happen. I can't go back and relive life and sort of say, hey, I wish that would have happened, or I can pick this thing or interchange that. It doesn't happen that way. The only thing that really happens, we really don't have a lot of the choices that we sort of think that we do, and we just kind of gravitate towards something, whatever that thing is. All right. I know it's kind of a long-winded talk, but just don't overthink things. Just go into it and get going. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day.